Men of Sandpoint Men's Group, welcome. The intention of this video is to describe a set of agreements that constitute a format for an intentional group that is going to be actualized this next rotation of our Sandpoint Men's Group circles. This group has been given the green light by the Stewardship Council, so I do have their endorsement to do this. This is not exactly an intense group, though it can be intense. It's not exactly a soft group either. And so let me speak a little bit about the actual intention and the origin of this idea of mine, is that a lot of the time sitting in these groups, a lot of men, when we start out, we say, what do we want to get out of this group? And a lot of men, including myself, say, I want more accountability. I want more accountability. And I agree. I want more accountability in our groups. And so the beauty of Sandpoint Men's Group is that circle to circle, when we go into our individual groups, we can talk and create our own agreements within the group. And most of the groups I've been in, I've really just wanted to have particular rounds for accountability, which makes it challenging when people are not always making stretches, because really, if you don't make a stretch, there's not really an opportunity to be accountable for anything, really. And so what I see in a lot of groups is we go in and there's a round where we check in with our feelings, and then we go into a round two and we do some work. Maybe we go on a journey and then we come out and we check out. And I've been doing men's work for 10 years. I've experienced some different things in different formats of men's group that I think are really valuable, that I want to create an opportunity to bring in some of those exercises into a group that I think bring a lot of juice to a group environment that are more centered around accountability. And so I want to talk about that format now. And I just want to say this, when I lead in men's group, this is the kind of group I like to bring. And so this is a kind of group or a vision for a group that I would want to sit in every single time. And that's part of the intention of this group. So let me get into the format. So the structure of it, I'll go through really quick. So there's a couple of different rounds. We smudge, just the same. We do business round after we smudge. Then we do invocation. Right after invocation, we have a warrior round, followed by a lover round, followed by a magician round, followed by a king round. And now there's particular agreements in all of those rounds that I want to implement in this group to really bring a lot more intimacy and trust and depth and brotherhood and connection into our group every week. And so let me go through some of those. The first one I want to talk about is the smudge. And these agreements I have on a Word document that I will be putting on the email so that you can run through them and actually look if you are interested in joining this group or committing to these agreements, which we will all sign on the beginning of this group, which I think is a really important thing going into this group, is that when we make agreements, we write them down and we sign them, especially if it is us making that agreement, so that it's really clear what the agreements are that we're making, whether that is a stretch or an agreement we are making with a group or another person. So the first one in smudging is that we agree to hold sacred silence during the smudging process. A lot of the time I see that when we come in and we smudge, we're talking, we're kind of chit-chatting, and really this smudging process is a sacred part of the meeting. This is where we are really bringing our energy into a space that is unlike any other space in our social construct. And I really want to bring in a certain level of reverence and a certain level of sanctity back into this saging process. And that's saging with intention. That is also looking behind what is the intention of smudging at all. And really, I'll share what it means to me and what I would love to bring into this group. When I'm smudging somebody, and I've experienced this in other groups, I'm clearing off all the bullshit off of them before they come into this sacred space. By bullshit, maybe that wasn't the best word, but it's a lot of our roles that we put on during the day. Maybe we are a business clerk, or maybe we are a father, or maybe we're a caretaker. And there is something underneath all of that that is very much our true self, our organic self, devoid of all these roles, that when we're sitting in our power, after an intense journey, and we reclaim all of that power, we reclaim all of these things projected out into our environment, and we are whole, there is a piece of us that is, we all have that resonates to. And when I am smudging somebody, and this is traditionally how I was taught to do it, is that you are smudging all of that off of them with the intention of bringing that empowered man into this group. And that was the point of animal names from the Mankind Project. And my judgment was, that is the aspect of you. You call in and you name that. And I know other people in the group have names for it that I've seen. Sam is Samuel. Nando has his. I believe it's a rooster. And Kyler has his. It is El Toro. And these are names that are us in our most empowered state, that when we activate, it is as if we are coming home. And when we are smudging, or when I am smudging, I bring that intention to bring in El Toro to this group. I bring in Samuel, the empowered man, where all of the fears and traumas are not there. And a huge part of group, I believe, is us doing work, clearing this stuff off of each other so that we can leave group as these empowered kingly men that we are, so that we can go rule our kingdoms out in the world in that level of sovereignty. And so that's a huge aspect that I want to bring into this group. And the smudging process is the very beginning, where with the intention, we are holding sacred silence. And we are locking our bodies into the fact that we are entering into a space where we are going to do alchemy, where things might come up, where we need to bring in that sovereign aspect of ourselves and reorienting our connection to that. And the smudging process, in my judgment, is that. It is bringing the sanctity of our inner selves, our inner king, into this meeting, clearing off everything that needs to be cleared off before we enter into this sacred space. And so that is the first agreement, is that, to me, what is embodying around that is that we agree to hold sacred silence during the smudging process. We commit to smudging with intention is the next one. And through this, I differentiate the difference between agreement and commitment. And why do I do that? Because to me, an agreement is something that we can measure, that we could film with a video camera, and there's an ability to hold ourselves accountable to that thing when it is not just this gray area, when it's not open to interpretation. In this document, when I say that we commit to something, usually I say that because it is something that is a little bit more open to interpretation, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So the other commitment in smudging is we commit to smudging with intention. That can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I'm open to that. But silence and intention, I want to go into this meeting with. And again, I'm curious if anybody else resonates with this and if they want to try out this format. That is why I'm filming this video. That is why I'm plugging this into the larger SMG circle. Now let's go to business round. So the first agreement is We agree and commit to hashing through any necessary business during this portion of the meeting without getting too caught in stories so that we can get into the work. And so a lot of the time, sometimes I see that business round, we can get into chatting. I would like to agree to try and just bring exactly what we need so that we can maximize the time in this meeting. We agreed to do business round before invocation. Why that is because once we invocate, that energy easily flows right into the meeting. And I believe it's good to just get business round right out of the way. And so that energy that we cultivate in our invocation and calling in the directions, which is just like any other meeting, leads us into our warrior round. Now let me talk about the agreements in warrior round. The first agreement is we agree to participate in a warrior clearing round. So what this is that everybody in the warrior clearing round stands up and we look at each man in the face. And there's a systematic way to do that. It could look a lot of different ways, but each man we make eye contact with for an extended period of time. And what we are doing is we are looking if we have any judgment, any energy tied to this man, any projection coming up, or any charge or any energy. And I really want to agree in this group that if there's any charge at all, we clear it. And we have the courage to clear it, which is the most reduced down expression of the warrior archetype is courage. And in this round, we practice courage. We practice getting clean and clear. And that is with ourselves through an accountability round and getting clean and clear with other men in a clearing round. And we do this every meeting. We can also bring other people that you might have a charge with into this round. And the intention of this is to practice this exercise, which is clearings, which I think is one of the most powerful processes in men's group. It gives us an opportunity to take ownership of the projections in our life right off the bat. Not only when we do that with the men in our group relentlessly, even if it's a small thing, it builds trust. It builds safety. When I know if you have a problem with me, you are going to tell me, because we create a culture where we regularly exercise clearings and processes through owning our shit off of each other, even if it's a small charge. I will do that even if it is a small charge. And I believe there's a strong benefit of doing that that creates, again, a level of safety and trust in this container. And so again, this is the warrior round. This is very black and white. The magician round's kind of gray. It's kind of chaotic. That's where journeys happen. The warrior round is a whole different work round in and of itself, where it is very black and white. The clearing process that I have a set of formalized questions that I would like to experiment doing every time with the clearing makes it so that we do not get into a journey. We can bring this energy into a journey later, but this is really systematic. We are just really trying to get clean and clear the cleanest way possible, like the samurai sword that just cuts through things. That's the energy of the warrior round. And during a clearing, there's another exercise that I find really important. It's called the warrior shield. And what the warrior shield is that the person who has a clearing and the person they have a clearing with, that man who is the object of the projection or the clearing, has a warrior shield up where he is simultaneously protecting himself from the energy of the other man, realizing this has nothing to do with me, which is a part of the agreements around doing a clearing, is that we agree when we go into a clearing that we are intentionally trying to bring that energy off the individual to own it and see how much of this is about me, how much of this is about my stuff, and bringing that home off this person. Now, the person with the warrior shield on, it is practicing holding space. And this is applicable in life, which is another thing I want to get to. But there's two things being practiced in this clearing round that we're doing. We're practicing confrontation in life in a healthy way, where we can resolve charges so they don't build resentment in our relationships over time. And so the more we do this and practice this, the more, if we have a charge with somebody, it'll come out naturally. And that is the intention and the idea behind this, is that we can easily clear judgments off of people in group where we practice it, where we are training the skill, but it transferring out into life. So the more we practice this, not to just go too deep into this, but we're practicing getting clean and clear in our relationships in a way that is healthy, in a way that doesn't make it about the other person, that really takes our power back and creates a level of conflict resolution. But we're also practicing the warrior shield, where when somebody has a charge with us, realizing and activating that shield and saying, okay, this is about them, but I'm also going to allow some to get through that might be about me too. But I'm not going to take all of it personally. But I'm also going to just take some of it into account to see if there's pieces here for me. And that's the idea of practicing the warrior shield, which again is invaluable in group, where we're training for it, we're practicing it, and outside of group. And so that's the first exercise of the warrior round, which basically the warrior round and the other rounds are a set of exercises that, in my judgment, when practiced on a weekly basis, they don't just make us good at being in group and getting things out of group. They make things better in our life through practicing these. And there's a reason why we're doing the same thing, these same exercises, the same routine over and over again every week, is how many people lift weights or strength train. If you have ever, you know that when you have a routine, it's structured in a way where you're really doing the same exercises relatively over and over again in a pattern, so that you do it, you recover, and then you come back and you increase the load and you get stronger. Repetition and consistency is really important for growth. And I do believe that if we want to grow in a group, I really want to grow more in a group. I do believe that consistency is really important, and following a regiment for 6 months, and we can see where this goes. And so again, one idea I want to plant is that we are training when we are at group. We are not just training to be better at group. We are training to be better at life. We are training to be better stewards of ourselves, our own needs, and our kingdom, and other people's needs, and in our relationships. And I do believe the appropriate tools every week, practiced over and over again, will support any man to really bring and create the life he wants into his life, more so than if it was just a different set of exercises every group. I truly believe that. So let's go to the next exercise in the warrior round, which is the accountability round. And what we do in the accountability round is that we agree in this group to participate in an accountability round every single time. Whether you are in account or not, you participate in it to some degree or another. Where because, and I'll get to this in the king round, but one of the agreements is that we make a stretch every single group. And why we make a stretch is not only so that we can bring our work into our life consistently, but once we come back into group, the agreements we have either made with ourselves or the group or anybody else, we have the opportunity to hold ourselves accountable for those. And through the accountability round, I have an accountability process that if you did not keep an agreement, that we will go through. And the intention of that is to really look at what is blocking us from holding our agreements. without getting into shame piece. Really, I think if you're out of account, that is amazing. That means you are on your edge and that should be celebrated. If you are an account, that's great. That means you are growing. And I want to bring in that celebration piece in this round to either, because they are both worthy of celebration. I am here to be on my edge. I am here to not always just succeed. I want there to be risk of failure because that means that I am on my edge. That means that I have found my block and that there's an opportunity to make a new agreement relative to your needs. And that's the beauty of this process. And so we're looking at the shadows or beliefs or behaviors that are driving our lives behind the commitments and agreements we make. And we are practicing here, making better agreements with ourselves and with everybody else in our lives. And what that means, how do we make agreements? How can we make better ones? What stops us from keeping our agreements? This is all in the warrior round. So this is like a round of its own with this energy of the warrior, getting clean and clear. And so that is one of the rounds in the warrior round. I'm just bringing up this, making sure I'm not missing anything. In the accountability round, it's a series of questions that allow us to go deeper into what is behind our agreement that we did not keep or that we did keep. This process will be outlined below. So I'll add this to the document as well. So after we are clean and clear, we move into the lover round. Now, the lover round is like a round one check-in. And so the one agreement I have in this group, and I also want to bring this in as well, is that these agreements are adding on top of the agreements that we already have with the greater SMG circle. So they are just, this is an augmented group, if you will. So the agreement in our lover round, we agree to participate in a lover round and commit to be sensitive and receptive. Again, commit to be sensitive and receptive to one's own energy, feelings, our emotions, our bodily sensory experience as it is, without getting into too much story, with the intention to allow the wisdom of that energy that we are noticing in our bodies, our sensory experience, to guide us. Allow that wisdom to guide us into our work, into the magician round. And so to me, that is the reason of the lover round, is that, so another thing I want to elicit is that these rounds have different archetypes of energy that show up in all of our lives. And what we're doing, what we are practicing in this group as well, is we're practicing shifting gears. Okay, and I think this is also really valuable. We shift into warrior and we're like, all right, I have my shield up. Like I'm not going to say anything that is not black or white or straight. Did I do it? Did I not do it? There's an energy behind it that we are accessing and practicing. And in the lover round, we're accessing that too. The warrior energy is very masculine. It can be very assertive. It can be very black and white. It can be very outcome driven, which is why the process has such a strict format, is it's very outcome driven, which is a very masculine energy. And I'm speaking to masculine, feminine, archetypally, energetically. So in the lover round, it's a very feminine energy where we're going more inward, and instead of being outward and outcome driven, it's much more of being sensitive to what is without changing anything, observing what's happening in our bodies, not what we want to happen, but what's actually coming up. What is the wisdom of what is organically happening to inside of us and to us, and how can we be committed to being sensitive and receptive to that without judgment. Judgment is in the warrior round. We practice judgment hard in the warrior round. This is more about listening. The warrior round is slowing down and listening, not only to ourselves, but to others as well, where we're bringing in a level of openness here that's leading us into our magician round, and being open to what is organically shifting and coming up energetically for us right in that moment is really what is going to lead us into what we call round 2, which in this group is called the magician round. And so let me bring up the agreements I have written down for the magician round. So the first agreement of the magician round is that we create space at the beginning of the meeting, the beginning of this round, for anybody who needs or wants time to process their energies until they are complete. So if somebody is just sitting on energy and they don't want a time constraint, we agree to give space and hold space for those men that need it until they reach a level of completion. And that's going through a journey. It's all of the different skills we have learned in men's group in this round. And so I don't have any specific processes for this round. And maybe that's archetypally significant because the magician is the place where chaos happens. It is the place where alchemy happens. It is the place where we are clearing emotion, where we are healing beliefs, where we are digging deep into what is underneath that emotion, allowing that emotion to guide us into our work. And this is where the men processing, the men who are supporting the men in the group who is going through it, is practicing curiosity and openness towards that man. And I truly believe if we commit to being open and curious, which is in this document, we cannot go wrong. We cannot go wrong in processing this man. And that can show up in a lot of ways, but leading this man deeper into the deepest layer we can of what is going on underneath this emotion. What does it need? What does it need to be healed? What belief is emerging? What are the messages emerging? What are the emotions? How can we alchemize those emotions and process this into something, removing the blocks that are in the way? So again, that sovereign individual can re-emerge and bring all of this stuff into the light, out of the darkness, into the light, that magician energy, so that it can be transmuted into something empowering, so that that sovereign man can emerge again. And this is another element of the work that we are doing here, which again is a skill, being open and curious, and how to delve into the deepest depths of our darkness that our emotions are leading us into, so that we can heal, what needs to be healed. Now, again, this is also a round where after the men who really needed the work have got what they needed, we agreed to divide up, which is another one of the agreements. We agreed to divide up the remaining time amongst the rest of the men in the group, while leaving enough time for a king round. And so after the men are clean and clear and they've transmuted the emotion and they are that sovereign individual again, we check in. And so that can be, it can look like a lot of different ways. And we know this from sitting in men's group, at least the men who do sit in men's group. Some men in this round just want connection. They want to share. They're like, this happened and I'm happy about that and I want to celebrate that. And I think that's beautiful. And that's what this aspect of this round is for. Do you just need to tell a story and have people be there curious, asking you questions so you can see your blind spot, so you can bring something out into the light? That's what this round is for. Some people want connection. Some people want bids for connection. Some people want to transmute some stuff. That's great. That is the magician round. We are moving energy in a different way in this round than the warrior round. Okay? And again, the magician round is that we are looking to clear and heal so that we are whole again and leave with that sense of wholeness, and emerging a work statement as well, working to a work statement and getting our power back as much as we can, as much clarity as we can in our life of our sovereignty, our power, clarity of perception of the situation in our life, so that we know our work, so that that leads into the king round, which the king round is where we make our stretch, which we agree to make every single group. And I really want to challenge everybody in this group, where a lot of men will make stretches around, I need to get to bed earlier. It's a block. Sometimes our blocks are just how we are showing up for ourselves. Like, man, my life would be better if I got to bed early. And that's great. And like, I make tons of those stretches, and I think that those are great. But I really want to challenge this group to make stretches that are about the work that is behind what's happening in group and bringing that into life. Whether that is a challenging conversation they need to have, whether that is something they need to do, something they need to create out in the world, something that they are going to work on and embody this week, and bring that work as their sovereign self into their life. And this is a very important part of this group, where when there is a stretch and when there is accountability round, they are interdependent. And without them, it can so easily, the work in men's group can slip to where I come into group and I'm like, holy shit, I am in the same level of work I was in last week. The stretch in the accountability round allows the work that happens inside group to be brought out into our life, and it creates a full circle. And I really want to bring home this circularness of this tool that we call men's group, because I really believe that men's group is a tool for a lot of positive change and healing in our human experience. It creates social healing. It creates healing inside of ourselves. It heals our relationship to ourselves and our environment. And the stretch and the accountability round allows us to bring that work every week into our life, to where we can create a full circle, where our work is not just in this half circle in group, and then maybe it makes its way into our next day. It brings this whole transformative process and this cyclicalness into our life. And that's what I want to bring into this group, is this cyclicalness of the change that we can do with this format. And so let me bring in this document and let's look at the agreements I've laid out. So we agree and commit to turning our work statement into a stretch to bring our work out into our kingdom. This can be agreement to ourselves or to the group or to somebody else. But again, in group, we are practicing making agreements that actually make our life better, and holding ourselves to those agreements and practicing making those and keeping them. Like I said in the accountability round, we also agree to participate in a king round, where we give and receive blessings, gratitude, reflections, respect, and honor, not only to ourselves, but to others. So we are giving and receiving honor and blessings from others. And so we go around, and in a previous group, we were doing it where we were giving and honoring every single man in the circle. We may not have time for that, but I want to give a round where we practice. I need to be able to practice to receive blessings. I will deflect the shit out of blessings that people give me. I need a round where I can practice receiving. But I also believe that there's equal value receiving and giving blessings, and practicing this, and this can make its way into our life in such a beautiful and profound way, of making it a regular practice of just giving blessings, honoring people when there is space to honor it. And again, the more we practice this in group, the more I will feel comfortable bringing that into my life and just being like, oh, here's where I need to honor a person. And I've practiced with it and making it genuine. And so again, we agree to participate in a king round where we are practicing giving and receiving blessings, honoring, respect, feedback sometimes. And so this also leads into some agreements around the actual format in this group. So we agreed to be consistent in following this format every single meeting, no matter who leads. We agree to bring a designated journal to the group every time for tracking our weekly work statements, agreements, our stretches, and our check-ins. And why that is important is that we can track our work. And so we can look at our progression. And I do think this is important. Just like in the gym, people will track, oh, wow, I made it. I'm like up weight here, or my reps are up here. And we can look back and we can track like, wow, I've been on this same work statement this whole time. Like, wow, look at this progress I've been making. Like, this is incredible. And this whole 6 months that we'll go through, we can see a linear progression of our work, whether that's with the emotions that we checked in with and love around, the agreements that we've kept. When we did not agree, when we did not keep our agreements, we track what got in the way. Maybe there's a pattern there. How would seeing that pattern of like, holy shit, this is a huge piece of work that is keeping me from making my agreements, and then bringing that into the magician round. Tracking ourselves, I feel like, is really, really important. So again, we agree to bring a journal to every group, to track ourselves weekly. We commit to not having a theme. And so in this group, we do not have a theme. We do have minutes. We're still doing the minutes, but we do not have a theme. We are allowing our feelings and our energy to lead us into our work, and trusting the wisdom of our energy to lead us into where our work is every single meeting. And so that is the big picture of the group. If you stayed this whole time, I don't even know how long, 36 minutes. If you stayed for the whole thing, congratulations. Thank you. If this is something you're interested in, if this is resonating with you, I really want to encourage you to respond to this email with an I am in, showing that you are in this meeting, you are interested in this meeting. Again, this will be rolling out the next rotation of our group rotation. And if you're interested in, again, please respond. I really believe that this meeting is going to be great. I think it's going to have great results, and I really want to see all the men who resonate with it there. So again, if you watched this whole video, thank you. If you have any questions, please reach out. I would love to answer them. But with that, Sandpoint Men's Group, that is my offering. That is my ask. That is my intent, to see if there's interest in this group. So I hope to hear back from you guys soon. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you guys next time.